Hi there, my name is Steve Earhart, and as always, this is the Unagi Observer. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching the video this week. Real quick, just got my stuff for Gen Con. Got the tickets, got the events that I want to go to. Brett and I are going to be heading out there in August, and it's going to be a good time. I'm going to show you some pictures and videos of stuff that we did at Gen Con, and that'll be sometime in August. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So this week, what are we going to talk about this week? Well, first of all, we're going to talk about a science fiction book and by Greg Bear called Beyond Heaven's River. There you go. And I'm going to talk a little bit and show you a video on the mechanics and a little bit of the combat play from Hoyoverse's new game they released a few weeks ago called Honkai Star Rail. So let's get into it. Okay, let's talk about one of Greg Bear's a big name in science fiction. Let's take a look at one of his smaller works, not a short story, but a small novel, almost a light novel, if you will, called Beyond Heaven's River. And again, it's by Greg Bear. This edition was published in 1980. I've got to warn you, if you get this particular edition, little bit to be desired for in terms of the actual editing. There's some editing mistakes you're gonna have to get through on this, but still a good read. So as I mentioned, Greg Bear is a big name in science fiction. If you know science fiction, then you know that name. I happened to come across this, of course, in my local library, the Enoch Pratt Free Library. And just a word on libraries. Libraries are wonderful deposits of knowledge, and fiction, and how to learn about things and how to do things, music scores, the whole nine yards. You can find a lot of stuff in libraries. And libraries have evolved into these things where you can also, go online and do things. They provide courses. Libraries provide a lot of useful things. And I actually used to work for the Pratt Library a number of years ago. And I adore libraries. So I whenever I get a book and I want to talk about it, I kind of want to make this little speech. So, if you have a local library, please support it in any way, shape, or form that you can, because these libraries are wonderful, wonderful things. So please support your local library. Okay, so enough of that. I get off my soapbox now, and we'll talk about Beyond Heaven's River by Greg Bear. So the premise of this book is that it is set in the far-flung future. Actually, it's about, I believe, like 2500 AD or something like that. Mankind has figured out how to travel amongst the stars. It's a complicated process. It's not easy, as you actually have a black hole as part of your engine, and that's how you travel around. But it's still kind of like the technology is in its infancy, so there's things that there's still factors involved. So it's not like you're warping from one place to the next instantly. You still have time to travel. So whenever you're dealing with space, you are still dealing with lengthy voyages, especially if you're talking about interstellar space. The book takes for granted that there are other alien races. They mention 3 in particular. One is particularly unknown. The other 2 they have dealings with. There's no big cataclysmic war or anything like that. Pretty much people are recognizing each other's space more or less, and the battles that take place between these different species in space is legal. Like they form courts and things like that, and federations and trade economic federations and things like that. So if you're looking for space war, no, that's not what this is going to be. As a matter of fact, a big premise of the book is the fact that there are a whole bunch of, as we know, the universe is vast, and there's a whole bunch of planets out there. And so there's a subset of people from all these species that their job, what they do is they go out and they find a planet that's uninhabited doesn't look like it's going to have sentient life on it anytime soon. And they basically claim it, and then they sell it for property rights, intellectual rights, historical data, of course, mining, things like that. So this is kind of the business of buying and selling planets, literally. So one of the races that is unknown, the Ferdicians, Nobody knows anything about them. So another job that that humans kind of do is they buy, old spaceships with good listening gear on it, and they go out to planets that they know the Verdicians are at or may have been at, and they kind of listen in and they collect the data and they sell the data to people, or they contract out with a specific company to get that data. A human couple, are doing that on this one particular nondescript planet. There's like literally nothing on it. It's like a bunch of plains, some mountains, a little bit of vegetation, and no real big mineral deposits that anybody would need, want, or use. It's kind of like a backwater planet. So they're kind of looking at it, and so what they're hoping for is that they'll find some data, some information, perhaps even a physical artifact that they can take to their contracts and get bonuses and get rich and blah 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 blah. So as they're looking at this planet, they're looking at this one particular structure, which is a dome. It's about 3 kilometers in radius, and they don't know what's going on in there. And suddenly they figure out that the Verdicians have left. Like they're gone from the planet. There's no radio chatter. There's nothing. They can't detect any presence down there, and that's their job, is to figure this out. And so they go down to the planet, and they're like, okay, well, they've all left, so we'll stake a claim. This is our planet now. So they stop their contract with the company that has asked them to listen to this planet, so they can claim the planet, because clearly something's going on. They feel that they can find artifacts and get rich, right? So they approach the dome, and when they enter the dome, suddenly they're looking at bodies, and they all seem to be Japanese. They're all dead, and they seem to be wearing samurai armor. Like they actually have to look it up. They're not. They know it's human, but they don't know the history, right? So they have these little machines with them, and they say, okay, what is this? And they discover, oh, well, this is, Edo period, whatever, samurai armor, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, huh, why is a dome for the Verdicians have this? And this guy walks out, and they're like, holy crap, someone's alive. And because that guy's alive, he's the sentient being on the planet. Therefore, they can't claim the planet. They have to deal with him. So, of course, they go through the legalese, and a court comes in. Some other ships from other companies are coming in to try and stake a claim and say, hey, we want this planet for ourselves. We're trying to figure out what's going on here. Oh, wait, there's a guy here. Actual guy. Japanese guy. And they're like, who is this guy? And his name is Yoshio Kawashita. And he basically says to them, I've been here for 400 years. And I got a story to tell, but you're the first real people that I've seen. And they're like looking at the bodies, and he goes, oh, they're not real. And you come to find out they aren't. So one of the other ships from another conglomerate is run by a woman named Anna Nestor. And she kind of figures it out a little bit. She goes, okay, I need to deal with this Japanese guy, because he's considered to be the owner of the planet, because he's the only other living thing here, and he's been here for 400 years, so obviously he has first claim. The other humans that were listening in are crestfallen, because they know that whatever judgment happens, it's not going to go their way. And of course it doesn't. So the first part of the story is basically Anna and this Japanese fellow talking, and he kind of says, here's my history, and here's how I think I got here, and I don't know who these people are. And he keeps, when he thinks nobody is looking or listening, he keeps talking to someone named Ko, but there's nobody there. So anyway, the rest of the story is basically, there's a judgment that comes down, the ruling as kind of everybody expects. But the rest of the book is basically about him coming to terms with, basically, here's the future, here's how everything has changed. He's trying to figure out his way in life. He's trying to figure out why he was taken in the first place. And you discover very interesting things. Like within this dome, it's like if you watch Star Trek Next Generation, right? You know the room where you can make all sorts of scenarios, and you can go into a bar and all that stuff. the hologram, right? The holosuite. It's kind of like that. So he can like walk in a straight, what he thinks is a straight line forever, but the machinations in the dome like make it seem that way. But he's still in this 3 kilometer area. So it turns out that he is able to, what he thinks in his mind, the traditions say, okay, this is what his world should look like. This is where he's going. And so he recreated Edo period Japan. But he's not from the Edo era. But I'm not going to tell you where he's from. So it's kind of interesting. Anyway, so the story progresses. He and Anna go on this journey to basically, stake his claim on this planet that's basically worthless to everybody except for him, because again he's trying to figure all this out. And in the process we learn a little bit more about the technology, we learn about Anna's family, we learn how things work in this world, how he's trying to work in this world. It's very interesting. And the ending is, I don't know how to describe the ending. Well, I'll describe the very last paragraph. It's all in Latin, so get your guidebooks out. And you can't just Google Translate this. This is a higher level of Latin, so you're actually going to have to transcribe. It took me a while to do it, but so don't try Google Translate. Just you're gonna have to work at it. But I don't want to tell you because that'll ruin the story. So again, this is Greg Bear, so it's a well written story. Normally his stuff is pretty fantastical and it kind of goes on. So, his books are normally 350, 400, 500 pages. He writes, his short stories are really not that short. They're usually about somewhere between 20 and 50 pages. So this is really a very, when you still look at his whole of his works, this is a pretty slim story at a little over 200 pages. It's an easy read. You'll get through it pretty quickly. It's interesting enough that you can read entire 6 chapters at a time. The chapters are short, but you can do many chapters at a time. So this literally took me 48 hours to read, and that's off and on. Just I was waiting for somebody at the hospital, so I had 4 hours to read, and I killed probably about 30% of the book. So anyway, there you go. The only disappointing things about this book is that we don't get much on Ko. That seems to drop by the wayside. And the fact that it's too short. It's actually too short. I think this could have been fleshed out another 100 pages, and it would be even better. Not bad that it's too short, but I think you could, when you read it, you'll see what I mean. You'll be like, oh, we could expound on that. Oh, we could talk more about that. Oh, that's a good idea. Why didn't we talk about that? So there's a lot of that going on in here. Do I recommend this? I do. Like I said, this is not going to be, a life-changing read. This is one of those reads that if you just want something, you're in between series, a book, or whatever, you just finished something, Titanic, 3,000 pages, whatever, or, you read the entire One Piece series up to this point, you just need something different. That's this right here. And like I said, it's a very easy read, and it's very entertaining. But if you're looking for space battles, if you're looking for space opera, if you're looking for Dune type things going on, no. This is very simple, straightforward, which is a little bit unusual for Greg Bear. A lot of his stuff is very highly intellectual. You kind of gird yourself up to read this stuff. Not so much on this. The technology behind it is... they approach it the way that Mobile Suit Gundam approaches technology in the original anime, insofar that it's made up, right? There's no actual science behind it, but whatever rules that they decide in the fiction, they follow the rules. So that's kind of what goes on in here. But there is enough sciencey stuff that if you are into science and physics, you'll be like, oh, I know what that is. So, yes. So, yeah, please do. Read. Let's talk about Honkai Star Rail. So that's the new Hoyoverse game that came out a few weeks ago. I've been dabbling in it. It's a very interesting game. I think you'll be intrigued by it. I'm going to show a video that shows some of the mechanics of it and an example of combat play in the game. So that'll come up momentarily. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it because it is a game, and like Hoyoverse wants to do, there's a lot of moving parts. Now, if you are a player of Genshin Impact, then a lot of Honkai Star Rail is going to look familiar to you, particularly in the mechanics of things. You'll see it in the video. Like, you're going to see how the character screens come up. Things are just given different names. Like, instead of wishes, it's called warps. Things of that nature. So you still see a lot of different things, like the achievement board. You see, artifacts, things that you're going to need and want to pick up. You get money, you get gems. There's things that as you're walking around, you want to bash and pick up and open, chests to open, and things to pick up, and of course character stories to enjoy. So, like I said, the mechanics of it is very much like Genshin Impact. I'm going to show that to you briefly, and but some notable differences. So, in terms of gameplay, as you're moving around, it is a open world, and I'm putting that in heavy quotations because the world's not that big. And what I mean by that is that the computer limits you to areas of the world. So, like, yeah, you're going to a planet, right? But you're only going to be in one part of the planet at any given time. And it's not like Genshin where you can just go off anywhere. So, much like Genshin, it has things that are equivalent to waypoints. So there's ways to transport from here to there where you can heal up and blah, 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 and all that stuff. But again, one of the more noticeable differences is that when you're actually going through the gameplay, there is no gliding and there is no jumping. So when you come across an obstacle that the computer says you can't go over or get around, you can't. You can't climb, you can't fly over it, you can't jump over it. So if, as you're moving around, that's one of the things that, if you're used to Genshin Impact, you might be like tapping the spacebar to jump or, trying to glide. You're like, oh yeah, that's not going to do that here. Another big deal is weapons are what you have, is what your characters have. So there isn't really a weapons banner, like you don't really get new weapons. What you do is you get these things called cones, and they give you abilities, just kind of like talents. And they're related to the artifacts that you can get. So when you level up your character, everything else levels up to a certain point. Some things you still need to add stuff, like, okay, I'm going to plug in 5 artifacts at 3 stars to this to make this stronger, right? So that's what the light cones go into. In Genshin, we have the things called the constellation, right? Each character has a constellation. You open those things up, more talents, more things come available to you. You get more powerful. Same concept in Star Rail, except that it is called, I'm going to mispronounce it, Iden, whatever, something like that. You'll see it in there. So you get the idea that the mechanics are basically the same, but there's not going to be massive different types of weapons. So if your character comes with a bow, one of the characters does, that's what you get. That's what you use. One character's got a bat, cosmic bat, as I like to call it. That's what you use. Another one's got a spear. That's what you use. So you get the idea. Combat is also the other big difference in this game. And the big difference of that is that it is turn-based. For those of you who are new to gaming, or like me, or kind of a noob to gaming, turn-based literally just means that. So if you, in the gameplay, are able to surprise or be the first one to attack, then when you get into the combat mode, you get the first attack. So each character, you have time to figure out what you want to do once you're facing the enemy. So it's not, time's not an issue. You have generally 2 attacks for your Q button, which is your more powerful attack, and your E button, which is the more specified kind of thing that your character can do. So once you do your attack, you stand back, and then they attack you. And so they do damage, you do damage, and it's just kind of going back and forth until one side loses. And that's kind of how it goes. So it's not like Genshin Impact where, you know, you're like smacking at the board like a demented monkey, fighting, you know, 15 guys at the same time, and then doing a huge Q blast with your Jade Spear with Raiden Shogun. It's not like that at all. But it does make you think a little bit more about your combat. So for those of you who like turn-based, you're gonna like this. I'll be honest, if you're not used to it, it takes a little while getting used to. The other big thing about this is that Genshin Impact has lore and it has stories and it has all those wonderful things. But you can grind, you can farm, you can do kind of things that you want to do, and then do the story quests, and then do the stories, and then do the lore, right? But there are other things that you can do. In Star Rail, not so much. You can grind, you can farm, you know, you can do those things, but this is very, 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 very story driven. So if you're the type of gamer that likes to like just amass a lot of stuff and then go through and do the thing and beat the big guy like you can in Genshin, not so much in Star Rail. You have those elements, like the first big baddie you come across is what I call Space Dvalin. Dvalin is the first big creature that you fight in Genshin. So those things do happen, and you do have to be ready for it. But it's not like you keep going back to the same place over and over and over and over again, because the story is what moves you along in the game. If you don't move along with the story, you're not going to move in the game. Like in a game like Genshin, real open world Genshin Impact, you can level up your characters, you can do all these different things without really having to do any quests, right? You can actually do that. You gotta follow the story in Honkai Star Rail. So those are the big differences. How does it look? It looks amazing. This is a very beautiful game to look at. They spent money on this. Genshin is beautiful. This is no slouch either. It's a little bit more crisper in the looks department, in terms of how things are outlined and the areas around you. Very interesting visuals. There's nothing there that's going to bore you visually. The music, well, Hoyoverse does music well, don't they? Music is just as good in Star Rail as it is in Genshin. The difference being is that in Genshin you have many different things to listen to. Star Rail, it's pretty limited to the soundtrack that they have, and but it's a very good, very very good soundtrack. Characters are, if you play Genshin, you're gonna be like, oh, that's Amber. Oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, that's so-and-so. Yeah. So you get the idea. So you're going to see a lot of like influences and similarities between the two games. At the beginning of the game, of course, you choose your gender, but unlike in Genshin, it doesn't determine, you know, you're kind of, there's no sibling story, right? You either choose female or male, and that's it. And you go on. So the story starts with basically you're on a space station that the Star Rail happens to be at. It's under attack. One of the more powerful characters in the game comes up to your body, takes what's called a Stellaron, which is a little piece of evil, and shoves it into your chest, and you come to life, and you are self-determining, and you give yourself your own name, and then you go through the thing, right? What is very helpful in Star Rail is that there is a tutorial function that actually is helpful. So, you know, and the game forces you to do things to help you learn how to play the game. So it's very good on that. So if you're, again, a noob and you're worried about, oh my God, there's so many things I need to learn how to do, it's okay. You can learn as you play, and the game is very good at explaining things for you along the way to make it more enjoyable. So, would I give this game a try? If you play Genshin Impact, definitely you're going to want to try this. If you are hesitant about wanting to play Genshin Impact, you want something that's a little bit more of a speed that you can handle, actually Star Rail is pretty good. Just remember that the stories in Star Rail are more important in terms of you moving through the game than it is in Genshin. Genshin has tons of different storylines that you can follow. Star Rail pretty much has the one big one, right? A few others off to the side, but you gotta, in order to move forward in the game, you have to move with the stories. It's kind of like in Genshin, you can go through the whole open world without having to go through all the Archon quests. You can do that. It's hard, but you can. In Star Rail, again, the story is the driver, so you have to play with the story. But if you're wondering about Genshin, whether or not you want to try Genshin, and you want to try Star Rail first. It'll give you an idea of what an open world looks like, and if you like that, then you should go over to Genshin, because that's a very good introduction, I think, to Genshin. Hoyoverse, like I said, did a good job on this. I'm being entertained. I just started playing this about a couple weeks ago, and I'm having fun with it. So there you go. There it is. So here's the video coming up, and like I said, I'm going to show you a little bit of the mechanics for you Genshin players. Some of the stuff is going to be really obvious to you, and then I'm going to show you the turn-based combat and how that works. All right, so that's it for this week. Thank you again for coming by and watching the video. If you are going to Gen Con, I will see you at Gen Con. Please come up to me and say hello. I would love it very much if you did, which means that you guys have to take care of yourselves. So please, please, please take care of yourselves. Keep yourselves good. And so I can see you at Gen Con, because I love you guys. And until then, see you next week.
Don't hesitate.
How about this?
The truth of life and death, revealed in an instant. This sanctuary is but a vision!
You have the worst luck running into me.
This is our chance.
Step aside. I have no interest in stoking conflict. The time is now.
My turn.
Rules are made to be broken! Decisive strike!
Clemency? Never heard of it.
Gotta try hard sometimes. Check out this awesome move! You have the worst luck running into me.
Let's make it quick.
Step aside. I have no interest in stoking conflict. The time is now.
I, Japard Landau, captain of the Silver Mane Guards, order you to relinquish your futile resistance.
Ugh, that Sampo cheated us all. Wait till I get my hands on him.
Suspect! Relinquish your resistance!
So I'm a criminal, huh? Forget Sampo. Wait until I get my hands on you!
Death, revealed in an instant. This sanctuary is but a vision!
Stay right there while I give you a present!
Batter up! Stay focused! For glory!
Clemency? Never heard of it. The time is now.
With me out here, how can we lose?
Let's go. Our position is solid.
Try that again!
The truth of life and death, revealed in an instant. This sanctuary is but a vision!
My turn! Stay right there while I give you a present!
Rules are made to be broken! You're out! Let's make it quick. Batter up! This ends here!